we had a really great response to that. And at the end of it, we said, please stop by. We're going to have some really great swag. Love to show you guys some of the tools and technologies and partners and AI stuff that we've got going on. So love to see you there. And that, while I can't measure that, I believe that helped drive some of the traffic there.
That's super cool. Doing programming before the programming to build something that builds your list, starts building the relationships that at the event you can make most use of the time.
Yeah.
Revenue boosters, tips now in the fast lane. Watch your profits grow. Welcome to the Rev Up Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rev Up Podcast. Today we are joined by Lindsay Kelly. She's the Vice President of Marketing at Sonar Software. They are a leading cloud-based provider of billing and OSS solutions for internet service providers. She has incredible experience at a previous SaaS company. When she joined, marketing was only responsible for 22% of closed-won deals. And 3 years later, when she left, marketing was responsible for 63% of closed-won deals. She has a wealth of knowledge for us to learn from her. So I'm so excited to jump in. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thanks, Greg. So happy to be here.
I'm so excited. So you joined a couple months ago to Sonar Software. Tell me a little bit of when you got in there. What was it like? What was top priority for you to kick things off as leading marketing at a company like Sonar?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things that I noticed was during the interview process, everybody was very warm and welcoming, and they really you could feel their culture. And the website, while it was amazing and it looks fantastic, it didn't feel like Sonar. They're very passionate, very connected to customers. Everybody is super collaborative. They speak emoji in Slack like no company I've ever seen before. And I love it. They're little emojis I've never seen. So there's a lot of personality there, and it just wasn't showing through digitally. So that was one of the first things that I noticed, and one of the first things that I thought was going to be really important for us to tackle. So
that's super cool. I mean, it makes sense, right? Marketing is not just telling people about your product or service, it's telling people about your company. So how did you do that? What did that look like to sort of bring that personality forward in the way that you communicated with the world?
So we decided to call it Operation Humanize Sonar.
I love it. Everything good has a good name. Everything good has a good. That's amazing.
It was one of those things that just kind of felt like the right thing to call it, because the people inside had such amazing personalities, and nobody was able to see that from the outside. So we kind of called it the humans of Sonar, internally. And so there's kind of a three-prong approach that we're going for. And we're still in kind of phase one, about to touch phase two. But phase one is really showcasing, the employees of Sonar, being able to share interviews that I can dig into with them. So what we started initially was some of the blog posts that had been written were by our subject matter experts, but you really didn't get to feel their answer, hear their answer, put that face to the name. And so that's what we did. The first thing we did was we interviewed them and said, hey, let's dig into the blog. And so we jumped on a recording platform. I asked them questions. They answered. We started taking some of the shorts with some of these subject matter experts from our internal team answering questions. So we've had like our chief security engineer. We've had our head of payments, because payments and processing is a big part of what we do. We've had the head of customer success. So we've been able to kind of showcase these people as, give them that platform to be able to show their personality. And you can really tell just how engaged and involved they are. And so we called it Behind the Blog. And we put it out on YouTube, and then we share social snippets that'll drive to the full episode. But we found that's been really effective, especially with putting captions there, because we all know we've got such a short amount of time to hook them when they're scrolling through that LinkedIn feed. So
absolutely. Video is so important for marketing. It's good for mid-funnel, building that deeper relationship and moving people through. It's also good for top of funnel, right? Getting it on YouTube, getting it spread out there when people are searching for relevant terms. What does that look like at Sonar? What channels are sort of top of mind for you as you think about your marketing mix?
So LinkedIn is definitely king. It is where a lot of our people spend time. They do spend time on Facebook, but we've done a lot of testing to see what people respond to. they tend to respond much more on LinkedIn. We do have a Facebook user group. They're very active there. We have an official one. People are able to ask questions, but we find from an engagement perspective, we're seeing a lot more engagement on LinkedIn. And we're actually taking and doing even deeper humanization on LinkedIn by, we've asked our CEO, Ray Bixler, he's now putting LinkedIn content out there. He's got such a good, warm personality. He's just like that guy you just want to sit down with and have a cup of coffee and just chat with for hours. And so now he's starting to do that himself. And so we're seeing the impressions and the metrics and the numbers go up because of that, because then we take and share his post and as cool. Sonar. And so we're seeing more engagement there. But just on his own, he's really outperforming even our channels, as is our senior client relations manager, Georgette. She's been doing the same thing. Just so much wisdom there. It's just easy. It's easy to let her go and let her share. And so it was almost like, we gave her permission and she just went.
That's amazing. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, LinkedIn is such an incredible platform, especially for a company like Sonar, which has such a narrow ICP. Right, you know who your customers are and where to go find them. So is LinkedIn organic, or that's the main paid source of traffic?
No, it's all organic right now, which is actually quite remarkable. And we'll get into the budget discussion soon. But I walked into an existing budget, so there really wasn't any budget for LinkedIn. We did a small test, and it did really, really well. The one small test that we did, we used a combination of three things. We did a meme, we did a video. And then we did like, hey, come visit our page here and watch this full webinar.
Wow.
And, the video even outperformed the meme. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So if you're not spending on LinkedIn, so where does most of your marketing budget go to right now?
So most of my marketing budget right now goes to events. And so,
it makes sense.
So it's, and I think a lot of marketers walk into this situation where they are constantly being asked by sales, let's go to an event, let's go to an event, let's go to an event. And what happens is they go to the event, they meet a bunch of people, and then we don't always see the leads come back.
Absolutely.
And it's no one's fault really. It's more just, how do we get a better process in place? And so events is where we've spent some time honing our processes.
That's amazing. What are some of the insights? What have you learned to make events work well? I've been hearing that more and more lately, especially in the more ICPs with larger ticket size, more narrow ICPs. But everyone's really in a similar boat, trying to figure out how do you make it successful? And what have you learned about the keys to success there?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good question. And we're still learning, aren't we all? I feel like every event that we go to, we learn more. We just got back from one last week in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was probably, according to a lot of the folks that I've talked to, it's probably the best event we've ever done. And there was a multifaceted approach to it. So I'm going to just kind of fast forward to dissecting what we did for this one in particular.
For sure.
So we were able to get a list from the previous year because we weren't big sponsors. That's a big ticket item that is reserved for those platinum folks. And that's not in my budget. Totally. So we were an exhibitor. We were happy to be there. It was our first year there. So, we were just curious as to what kind of companies come. So we had a list of just the companies that had attended. So we said, okay, let's see if our customer list is here. Let's see if our prospect list is here. And so we worked with sales and with customer success to say, let's identify these folks. And then let's make sure we're calling and setting up meetings. And a lot of people say that, but the follow-up, and it lies with the sales reps. And our reps did a phenomenal job, I have to say. Very proud of them. They set up meetings. From what I understand, our one kind of rock star basically demoed for 2 days straight.
That's amazing.
The booth was constantly busy because we let people know we were going to be there. And so we did a couple things. The event organizers, it's a big association, the Fiber Broadband Association, they do Fiber Connect. And so what we did was we sponsored a webinar before the event. And so we were able to share, hey, here's how people are using AI within the internet service provider world, and kind of share a really interesting topic, brought on some industry experts as well as just AI experts. So it wasn't salesy at all. We hardly talked about Sonar. The only people from Sonar were myself, the moderator, and our CTO. And so the other two were just experts in the industry who use AI. And so we had a really great response to that. And at the end of it, we said, please stop by. We're going to have some really great swag. love to show you guys some of the tools and technologies and partners and AI stuff that we've got going on. So love to see you there. And that, while I can't measure that, I believe that helped drive some of the traffic there.
That's super cool. Doing programming before the programming to build something that builds your list, starts building the relationships so that at the event you can make most use of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible.
And the other thing that we did was we were able to get, was mentioning her before, Georgette, our Senior Director of Client Relations. She was invited to be a panelist because we put in for a speaking engagement for her. So I think that's another golden nugget that people don't think about all the time, is always make sure that you're putting your people on stage if you can. And so I think that was a huge draw as well, was having her there.
How do you do that? What's the strategy you use to get a speaking slot from? Obviously, everyone would love one. What's the best practice? What do you actually do to hustle to make that happen?
Okay,
because
so
frequently they charge for it, right? So how do you make that happen without paying?
They do. Well, luckily they do a call for speakers, and so with Georgette, I was able to sit down and brainstorm with her, and I said, what are you really passionate about? What can we help you talk about? I recorded our conversation. Here's another little trade secret that I'll share and teach. And so what I did was I took that transcript, Greg, and I went into our walled off instance of Gemini, and I said, brainstorm with me. What are some
awesome.
really engaging topics and narratives that we can build around all of these things that Georgette just talked about that are her areas of expertise? And so I went back and forth and iterated multiple times with Gemini to come up with the session topic, and
that's
approved
super
it through
cool.
her. And then we submitted her, and she was thrilled to have been selected. It was actually an amazing panel. So it was another little trade secret there. Use AI where you can.
That's amazing. I love it. And it's awesome that you just got back from this conference, that you led the operational process of going to, and everyone thought it was the best trade show yet that you went to. I think everyone thinking went well is great, and they probably are a decent proxy for the quality. Like, that's actually a genuine input. But let's get down to brass tacks. What KPIs are you personally using, since the majority of your spend, to judge both how well is the trade show budget, in-person events budget, going in aggregate as you think about budgeting next year? And then more specifically, the KPIs or metrics used to judge the relative effectiveness of each event?
Well, it's going to be a multi-tiered approach.
Totally.
And I say that because we also had a specialty event after hours.
Cool.
That our sales reps invited our top prospects who we knew were going to be there to, and then some of our top clients so that they could mingle.
That's
so
awesome.
it was probably a mix of 75% were prospects and 25% were customers. We kept it small and intimate. So that really gave those folks an opportunity to ask questions, just be together, get to know the humans of Sonar.
Totally.
And everybody had a really good time. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to track the two individual things that we did there, so we can see what was the most successful. Yes, we had some prospects who were already in the funnel. Did this help us push it through at a higher percentage rate than maybe, other sales qualified leads? And then also, what did we bring in that was completely net new from the booth? And then what does that opportunity map look like? I come from the school of inbound marketing. I am a huge digital inbound person. I have always had to do events, and I've never been a huge fan of them. There are some events, though, that I'm now learning really are very beneficial, because if I just looked at the metrics and said, well, look, I've got 48% of this is coming from inbound and only 14% is coming from trade shows. But then you look at the revenue, it's almost equal, because
Wow.
the bigger fish are getting closed at the events.
That's really interesting. If you can connect the dots further down funnel, that's where you start to see the uptick.
Yes, because the old me would have been like, well, look, I can produce so many more MQLs from inbound than I can from an event. I come home with 14 leads from an event, but I've got 60 that I just got over here from inbound. But those 60 right now, because we're refining our targeting, they are more mid-tier and small, whereas the ones at the events are larger. So you have to have the mix. You can't
totally
just
makes
take one
sense.
channel.
And it totally makes sense. And as you think about multiple channels, the data gets even harder, even especially in the B2B world where, one thing sort of can be multi-touch, multi-attribute. So tell me what's your paradigm that you're either have in place or are building towards for attribution as you think about your marketing mix? How does that work at Sonar?
Yeah, so it's what a weird world it is, Greg.
It is. It really is.
For a marketer right now, because our old school or traditional attribution, the way that we've been doing it as marketers for a very long time, it's not broken. It's just evolving. It is completely evolving. People no longer go, ooh, a white paper. I'm going to give you my email address, and then I'm going to go through your nurturing campaign. And no, now we just give it away. Just go, just enjoy it, consume it, and then our last touch attribution is this, and our first touch attribution is that, and we can look inside of our marketing attribution software and kind of see the touch points along the way. But we're not one of those industries or agency companies that can afford one of those multi-touch attribution lead tools. Totally. So a lot of what we do is, we focus on the awareness. You've got 97% of your folks aren't in a buying cycle. So we're producing and pumping out a lot of content to push out into the marketplace to get people talking. And I can even share a quick example, not to go too far off base, but we have an occurrence right now in our industry where, when you go to the grocery store and you see a label on your box of cereal and it says how many grams of sugar and all of this, did you know that your internet service provider has to have that now?
For what, like upload speeds and download speeds as an SLA?
Yep.
Wow.
It's a nutrition label.
That's very cool.
They already have it for the big guys, like your AT&T, your Verizon, your Spectrum. But now the smaller guys, that's creeping up to them where they're going to have that as well. They don't have the funds to be able to do things the way that the big guys do it. So our product team, we built something that is for our customers. They can actually get right to that from their portal, create their labels, voila. Well, then we were like, well, what about the guys that aren't customers and they're still struggling? Like, we want them to be able to use this too. Yeah. So we created a secondary tool. It doesn't do it quite as amazingly as if you're inside our portal, but it will still, if you upload everything into this, now that I ask for an email address for.
That's amazing. I mean, it's more than an email address. Tell me all your data. Tell me everything about your business.
But we keep that secure, and we've got a whole process that our security engineer has built for that. But it's just something that, from an industry perspective, is such a challenge and a pain. We were like, well, if we can do it, let's just do it. And, if they can consume some content and one day they become a customer, that's great. But if not, we're helping them because it's such a challenge in the industry.
So that's amazing. That's super cool. I love the idea of taking parts of your product and sort of rolling them out for free as a lead magnet. What does that strategic conversation look like between product and sales and marketing to make that decision? Into that one specifically, how did that happen?
So a couple different ways. One of the things that I'm really quite pleased about, when I joined the team, the CEO had really only been in place only a few months before I was. And so there's a lot of new folks on our leadership team. And I think that kind of this new era has really ushered in a lot of collaboration. And so our head of product is always thinking that way. And he's always talking to his team about it. So actually one of his teammates was the one that said, hey, head of product, I'm building this and I think it's really cool for our customers, but I think we can use it over here too. Can we get a call with marketing? Cool. And we do that all the time. That was one of the first baby steps. And now we have meetings all the time for product rollouts, product namings. We have a go-to-market group that meets every other week with customer service, sales, technology, product. We all come together and we have these conversations. It's just, that's the only way it's going to work. You just have to talk.
Absolutely. I mean, that one, I'm just, my mind's spinning on how, when you take a product and offer free as a lead magnet, what does the marketing plan look like for a free product? How much effort do you put behind it? How do you get the word out about that? What did that even look like for something like that?
No, that's a great question. And that was our test for LinkedIn that I told you about.
Cool.
And so we did end up, it was a very small buy, but we did generate a handful of leads. So we were pleased about it. But that was one step, was we did a LinkedIn campaign. The other one was when we started going to some of these events, all we had to do was put up a little board that said FCC nutrition label. And it was like a magnet because it's such a pain point. We also had a lot of LinkedIn posts about it. We had a lot of subject matter experts in our company sharing it and emailing all of our prospects, all of our customers to let them know, please share this with anyone that needs it.
So if you had a small budget, you generated some leads, theoretically that could hold up against your other marketing programs. Why not spend 10x or 100x as much on that?
That's a really good question because at the end of the day, you've got to have that marketing mix because we've got a lot of people coming in and we see really big leads coming in, but we also see really small leads coming in.
Yeah.
And so, we have a small, medium, and large tier, and teams that work on those individually are enterprise level folks. The enterprise level folks aren't really going to be filling that out. So
Totally.
if I dumped a whole lot of money into that, it would be back to that. Like, I've got a lot of leads and there's so many leads that's taking up so much time. I want that higher quality. We're focusing in on really reining in what an MQL is so that when we give it to sales, it's much more qualified. There's a lot less work involved because we're all small but mighty. So what kind of technology and tools can we use to pass off the best possible lead that we can?
Absolutely. That's amazing. Well, Lindsay, this is so much fun. I've learned so much. Humanizing a brand, I think, is something that we can all take away, probably not just at Sonar, but bringing humans to the forefront of the way we tell stories, especially the folks internal, is really, really interesting. Making the most of in-person events. I think, it's valuable. It's quality to be there, but doing a good job of them, getting us that speaking slot and doing a lot of scheduling in advance seems like it's amazing. Attribution, I think it's a complex topic, but I think finding out the right way for you to figure out MQLs, the right kinds of leads, the right strategies. I mean, there's just so much to unpack there for all of us. So Lindsay, this is really incredible. Thank you so much for coming and spending the time. If people want to learn more or follow along, where can they check you out?
Definitely check me out on LinkedIn. It's Lindsay with an AY, Kelly with an EY. Definitely check me out there. That's where I do most of my posting and hanging out.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Greg. It was a blast.
Rev up your ears, it's time to ignite. GTM leaders bringing secrets to light. Revenue